August will be my first full year of intentional farming. And I have already listed like 3 houses on one street in a neighborhood. So it works. It's crazy that it works. And I feel like so many people. Hi.
Hello there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, let's talk farming. It's literally my favorite topic, and apparently yours too.
Yes.
I love it. So, what state are you in?
I am in North Carolina.
Got it. So, everybody that likes a nice, pretty, weather feel, and not necessarily snow.
Yeah, it's just so hot. It is so miserably hot and humid. So it's great during the winter. I'm sure you're from up north, right?
Chicago,
Chicago, right? So it's like a vast difference. Yeah, so we don't
right?
really have but our
Okay.
summers are miserable.
Well, let's dive in. So typically we do
Yeah.
them really just chit-chatting and
Okay.
sharing some of the things. Obviously, like I'm postcard obsessed. That's
Okay.
kind of my thing. But and farming is like obsessed. That's the other part. And I know it works. It works for so many agents across the country, regardless of the state, right? Regardless of where they are at in business. So I really want to hear about your farming journey, like what started it. But before we do that, like tell me something like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that comes from farming. Like, what's your current like farming success story where you're like, every agent is like, what?
Just
Tell
that.
me your story.
So my story from the beginning, I started real estate in the great year of 2020, where everyone was starting real estate, I feel like. And I joined a team. And then in 2020, no, last year, I went solo and I was researching how can I get, market share, lead generation. I was a heavy listing agent on the team. And then I knew that I wanted to, stay heavy into listings. And so I was like, what can I do? I'm not rolling in the dough. I did a lot of research and looked up farming and just started to it. August will be my first full year of intentional farming. And I have already listed like 3 houses on one street in a neighborhood. So it works. It's crazy that it works. And I feel like so many people have, thrown it to the wayside because it's an, older concept and technology and all of this good stuff. And I think technology is great, but I think that people still
There's
gravitate.
no AI robot, right? In August, farming will be your entire first year of intentional farming. So far, you took 3 listings. When
Um,
did you take the
7
listing?
altogether, 7 altogether, just 3 on the same street.
Like, okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about when did you take your very first listing? Do you remember roughly?
Yeah, so it was in August and then I farmed around that listing
Okay,
in
so that
May.
kicked it off for you.
That
How long
kicked it
until the second listing then?
2 months.
All right. So we didn't quit.
No. And it
Love it.
was the neighbor across the street. She had gotten I dropped off like a little baggie, letting everyone know. I then mailed out an open house invitation and she reached out to me and then I also mailed up a follow-up. So after it closed, I, sent out a follow-up and she reached out and said, "Hey, I need to sell my house and I have all of your stuff."
That's awesome. See, it's like the things that we bring with and leave behind. Like there is so much power in that part of farming that people underestimate. Like, I mean, again, I know I'm drowning in paper, but it's like, you know, we literally keep these around for like, like I
For-
said, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where people hold on to it, right? They're like, oh yeah, I've got to get to that. And I think we do that in life right now a lot in general,
Mhm.
where we get busy and then we're like, I got to get to that. And we'll put it out there. You can't do that this easily with your email, with your phone. It just, there's fresh content. There's always fresh content, which puts you on the hamster wheel. You don't have that as much with the farming. It's a little bit more relaxed, I think, personally.
I agree with you.
So awesome. So August and now it's June. So we had like 10 months, 7 listings. Are you
Mhm.
going to quit after the first year?
No, no way.
Never. Love
No.
it. So a lot of it is listing marketing, then it sounds like, and dropping off invitations. So a lot of invitation-based marketing, inviting them to open houses, letting them know about listings, so listing marketing.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you're currently doing for your farm that you're like, I love doing it. I have no idea if it brings me any ROI, but it's so fun.
So I have, and I've invited my farm to events. So like you said, invitation. I did have one card that really, it didn't go viral, right? Because it's not, but throughout the farm, I have had people reach out and say, oh my gosh, that was funny. So I really like to incorporate puns in my cards and in my flyers. And every, like twice a year, every quarter, I will do a handwritten card and put in like a little thing. So whether that be seeds or whatever. So I sent this one card out, and this is the one that's got one of the other listings. He just was like, "This was so funny. I knew you were the agent for me," and it was a little crystal light packet. And it said, your neighbor at such and such address has gone on the market. We had this many showings. It was on the market for this long. We're under contract. Basically, there are this many buyers who are looking. Are you looking to list? And I said, so it's crystal clear that we're in need of inventory, or we have light inventory. That's what I said. It's crystal clear that we have light inventory. And I put the little packet in, and it was very cost effective. It wasn't crazy amount, and I've had a ton who like get a kick out of it. So I will, that's my one that really has cinched a few listings.
That is funny. That is good.
Thank
So
you.
one of the things I always struggle personally with is like, I hate being funny. Like I'm like a dry humor kind of person, right? Where
Right.
I'm just like, did she just really say that? It's like, yeah, I did. So, but people connect with us based on like how, we are from a personality standpoint. So I have a lot of like, me personally, I have a lot of analytical people that just want to, pros, cons, here's how we're going to do this. Um, but like based on humor, like every time you make a person feel good, right? They remember your name. And now it's something that's usable too. Like that's the other part. You can use it.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's not, and in that same, when I went and did a listing appointment with him, like you just pulled out your cards, he had the stack of every single thing I ever sent him. And he was like, I can tell that you hustle and you work. And I think that that's more apparent when you're doing mailers or marketing in that manner rather than online, because like you said, it's always fresh content. And so they might not see that you posted their house. And not saying that we're going to negate that and not do it, but it's so tangible to have a stack of cards and a stack of mailers.
For sure. And then it sounds like you do a whole lot of your own marketing itself. Like you really have you in your marketing.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to leverage it out a bit more. I, have been looking up services and all of that good stuff. And I know that they're out there. So that's my next piece of leverage, is doing that. And but still keeping my voice, but kind of getting it a little more automated.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it afterwards because that's
Yeah.
literally what I've done with my business, keeping my voice. But I think it's important when you start, not to go with the canned routes of here's a postcard. It came from, a Fortune 500 graphic designer who designs for a Fortune 500 company and not for small businesses. Like we
Mhm.
sell us first and foremost before we sell anything else, right? I'm like, if you don't like me, it doesn't matter what brokerage I'm with.
Right.
So first up, our personality and what we do, what our marketing is like. And then we can talk about, the package deal that comes with on the back end. But I think that's an interesting one. So when you started with your own marketing, like I want to take you back down, memory lane here. Canva?
Yes.
Yep,
Of
yep.
course.
Okay. Which I think is really, where a lot of us are starting to find our voice, because it just, we have so many different options that are like, oh, I like this, and this seems to be in tune, and we just start refining it and doing more. And again, my brand before was not there until I started putting something together in Canva, I think, and it just gave this all cohesive marketing look where it's like, it's coming together. It's work in
Right.
progress, but it's
Right.
coming
Same.
together. So you'll see, like in like a couple of years, you look at your very first marketing piece and you're like, oh my gosh. Like I still remember my very first marketing piece. And I'm like, this, and it was actually a funny mailer, which was for Thanksgiving. And I put
Okay.
it out there, and it had a picture of a turkey on it.
Mhm.
And it said, so I just lay here for a rub down and then I go in the sauna.
That's funny.
And it was funny.
Funny.
So, that was my very first mailer that went out. But turns out I'm not that kind of funny kind of person. Like it was, but it
Yeah.
was the first mailer, right? I'm like, I learned a whole bunch on it.
Mhm.
And I don't think I got really anything on it in terms of a listing, but it got me started on postcards and,
Mm.
DTIs and bleeds and margins. And I'm like, all this crazy stuff that people talk about with postcards, where I'm like, what? I thought we're just, hitting send and that's it.
We're just sticking stamps on.
Right? Pretty much. I'm like, yes. I've done the stamps, we've done the bulk one, and now, like I said, now it's all leveraged out. But typically, what do you try to do for mailings? Do you try to mail like once a month? Do you try to do a mix from, getting something on their door? Like, I don't know, how big are your doors? Let's start there. How big is your farm?
So I have two farms right now. One is around 400 houses, and then the other one is 153. So
Okay.
just north of 500 houses.
Okay, so that's fairly manageable still in terms of if you even wanted to do, door hangers, door by door, like you could probably get that done in a matter of 2 days.
Yes. Yep. So I do a mixture. I try to get something out every single month outside of the listing. So sometimes if and that's the plan every month. If I have a listing and I'm overwhelmed or I just haven't leveraged that out, then having the listing and the marketing around that is a nice plan B and a fallback. Like, well, they are going to be receiving something this month. So I really try to do once a month, and I will mix it up. So once a quarter, just for cost sake, at least at this point, I try to drop something at their door at least once a quarter. And a lot of times it will be around even what I'm doing for my past clients. So if I'm doing a 4th of July drop for my past clients, I will use a lot of the material and just, um, put that out to the farm as well.
Yeah, it's like, you inject the market with like goodwill. And I think that,
Mhm.
if anything, is just what brings us back business,
Mhm.
because we've had these conversations on our board before, and it's like agents are building communities. If you
Mhm.
look at, community events, there's probably an agent behind it who started it, sponsors it, organizes it, is involved with it. Like we are just so community heavy in so many aspects that people don't realize how much of their stuff is, agent driven on the
Right.
back end. It's mind blowing.
That's
Um, it really is. So when you do like something out of goodwill, right? I mean, we do it because we also like our communities. We're very community driven people. And yes, we do want to get something out of it, but it's okay if we also just touched on over 500 people and they're like, wow, this was nice.
right. And I door knocked after I door knocked for an open house that I was hosting, and I had sold the next door house. The clients that were next door saw all of they were like, wow, we want you to be our agent. Okay, great. I'm so grateful. Thank you. I was door knocking, and I met somebody in the neighborhood who works at the local grocery store that I go to. So now every time I go into that grocery store, I say, "Hey, Mrs. Smith. Hey, how are you?" And it's nice because it is our community. Like you said, we're not just doing it for a return. Yes, this is our job, but also getting to know the people in our community and at the local grocery store or at the, wherever, car dealership. Not that I'm frequenting those, but that was the first thing that came to my
You
mind.
never know when they say, oh, we're actually thinking about buying a house, and you want the car salesperson to say, well, hold on a minute, talk to Allisha
Right.
first, because otherwise you might be sleeping in your car and then come see
Right.
me afterwards.
That's a good one.
We've all been there, right?
Yeah. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah, that is proof
So,
of the pudding, I would say.
well, that's a good one. So, like I said, I mean, just the getting started, right? The getting started is the part where people are just hesitant. Where do I start? How do I start? Um, and it sometimes doesn't take a lot, right? I mean, we have access to tax portals. Even if you just start with a stamp on there, yes, they're expensive. We totally understand that, but at least you started. And if you don't want to do that, then go get some door hangers, or just put those on there. Like, this can be very affordable,
Mhm.
but you have to put action behind the plan, which drives it.
Exactly.
100%,
Exactly.
100%. All right, so if somebody was to get started, since your farming journey is still fairly fresh,
Mhm.
what's your advice?
I would say pick really think about the neighborhood that you're going to pick. All of the great farmers, yourself included, say, there's certain qualifications that you should look for. I really I live in the country where I'm at, so I don't have neighbors per se. I don't have a I don't live in a neighborhood to where it would just be an easy choice to go with that. I would, if you live in a neighborhood, to me, that's a no brainer. You already be where your feet are. You're walking your dogs, you're walking with your kids, you're bicycling, rollerblading, whatever you're doing. That just makes sense. But for those who are in a situation where maybe they live in an apartment or they live just not in a traditional neighborhood setting, I picked based on these criteria, and that was, turnover rate, price that I wanted to, the price range I wanted to be in. Also, I picked proximity to my house. So even though I'm not in the neighborhood, I still want to be fairly close. Uh, if something is amiss and if I'm listing a home, I am a military spouse. I live in a heavily military community, so there is a lot of come and go. Schedule is around 3 years, and a lot of people move and they have to get to their next duty station, and I'm here with their house. I need to be relatively close in case something goes awry. I had a situation where my cleaners were at a house and she called me and said, "There's a man at the door, wants to come in. I don't know what's going on." I was there in 5 minutes, and it just happened to be the gentleman who was doing measurements for my house because they're required for MLS. So he just came early because he knew that the house was vacant and he was supposed to be there the day afterwards. And so it was just a simple mix up, but I was there in 5 minutes and I was able to mediate the situation, be like, "Oh, okay, we're all here for the same thing. Great, fabulous."
And it's a peace of mind for clients, right? I mean, it's just having proximity really, really helps. And that's going back to the trust that we are entrusted with. Like, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
I
It's
think.
almost it is majority of people's biggest asset, biggest transaction they'll ever do in their life.
Yeah, and caring for it and protecting it is, again, part of, I think, a good quality of a hyper-local agent, to really just put yourself in their shoes and say, what if this was my house? What if, what do I want to experience? And that's what we often have project on our clients of like, let me make sure that you have the most amazing experience ever, because you move and I want to tell all your neighbors on how happy you were.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. All right. Any last pieces of advice?
Just get out there. Just start. I know that we're in a season right now where everything's um just be yourself, and you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I always say, like, I'm a dirty chai with 2 shots of espresso, and someone might be a green tea, and that's totally fine. Don't be scared of what other people are going to think by sending out mailers or by knocking on doors. Always bring value. If you are knocking on a door without bringing value, and that could just be, hi, it's summer. Here is my list of HVAC technicians that, I've used frequently. If something, we're in North Carolina, so I'm sure it happens. So,
Season.
right, in the season. So for me, it's just, if I don't bring value anytime that I go to a house to knock on the door, I might as well be cold calling, because that's exactly what you're doing when you're cold knocking. So always bring value, always come from contribution to someone's life.
That's a perfect ending. We're going to stop it right there. And your farming success is awesome. So thanks for sharing that with people. I know they need to hear it, that it works in different states for other agents. It's important. So like I said, thank you for sharing your farming success.
Thank you for having me.